Hey, movers and shakers, quick video while I'm trying to build the hardest rubbish rig supercar V8 supercar gearbox type thing. I'm starting to play with metal instead of sticky tape and cardboard, and as I'm filing and cutting and doing things I never usually do, enjoying working with steel, actually good fun, chipping away at it. But I've noticed that sleeves, like I'm coming across things that I suppose that most mechanics would just laugh at, or engineers, because I've never done that sort of thing. They know these sort of things, but you know, things like sleeves are really good, you know, instead of bearings or stuff like rods, you know, you use sleeves or shims, or I don't know what you call them really. I'm calling them sleeves, but because as I'm trying to build my rig, this cardboard, I just thought I'd fuck around and experiment. And it's funny how, like, when I'm trying to make a mechanism, I'll come across common ones they use in industry, or come across the same method. Like, for instance, like I just come across like a coilover, and not aiming to do that, but how I was going to do it, I told you before, I was going to run a bolt with a groove in it, and a couple of bearings, roller bearings that with springs in them to notch in there, and that'll sort of home it and feel that notch. And as I was building, I thought, well, maybe I'll build it bigger and tougher instead of just a rod with that, you know, tied to there, all the force and spring and everything tied to that. I thought, why don't I use the whole rod and use it symmetrically? So I thought I'll fuck around, and it turns out so much better. Like, and then, like, as I've been cutting steel, I've noticed like sleeves and things are just so good when you file them and polish them and shit, and you get them to fit. Because instead of a bearing, I've noticed, like, I'm going to run it on rod, sure, but it's going to be on, like, not shims, but it's like sleeves that push the mechanism. Instead of relying on the whole little pin, it'll rely on the whole rod's, I suppose, what would you call that, leverage. So yeah, because I've found, when I was just fucking around, I noticed that, like, say that nut, for instance, just an example, runs beautifully on that rod. And I was like, instead of making the whole thing tied to the rod, I thought, why don't I just let it run on that rod like that? And then what I could do is, and it works. So then I thought, well, then I'll kind of next size up, and I'm not going to do both sides, picture it symmetrical, so whatever, I'm not going to spend the time, but because instead, that way now I can have something like, and I'm probably sure this is how they do it in mechanics or engineering, instead of relying on one pin. So now, say if you picture one of those on the other side too, running on that rod, when this rod pushes, this nut goes one way, and when this rod pushes this nut, it goes the other way, and it runs on this rod, on that thread, and the rod will run through that, but it's pushing from the ends onto this rod. Does that make sense? So I try and set it up, and it turns out, then I've worked out, when I'm trying to make it sprung, it turns out so much better, because you end up with like a coilover, and it's symmetrical. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's see if I can do this without making a fuckload of noise and mess. Right, so I was saying that'll run along. Picture of both sides. I'm not going to set up both sides. I should probably put the rod on. No, I won't do that. So that's the bit that will push the bit each side. Maybe I should put a rod in. No, because then I can't. Wow, okay. And then I thought, well, how's the spring mechanism going to work if that's not tied in? That's pushing off the end into the thing each side. And I thought, well, then I can put the spring on over that, and then I can have like a coilover, so I can put the bigger sleeve over that sleeve like that, and then that'll be tied to the right end. So now let's see if I can do this again. Picture this on both sides. Right, getting there. It's not so that when now that would be, the spring would be quarter sprung right now, right, because it's in the middle. So this spring would be, and this coilover. Oh, don't lose my bearings. I'll make some noise. It's against cardboard, it's going to be good. It's still working, look. This coilover would be about quarter, because it's in the middle. So they both sides would be quarter sprung. Then when it goes to pushes this end, it'll be full unsprung, and that'll be full sprung. And then it'll be both quarter sprung. And this is, I'll take the spring out because the spring is too powerful. Hypothetically, imagine the spring was there. When this is pushed all the way there, that'll be full unsprung. Does that make sense? Because then it'll always be sprung. There you go. So it'll be like so easy. It'll be like bang, because it'll want to be unsprung each side. So it'll go pop, 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 and that's hitting this rod, which is pushing that each side. That'll hit me bearings with a groove in it. Bang, 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 bang. Well, they'll stay there, sorry, but this nut will be going left and right. Centre, that way. Centre, that way. So that is how I'm doing it, because I figured instead of tying something into a rod and everything is working off that, and then you got these things in line, it's not going to feel right. Whereas when I want to pull a gear, I want to feel like I'm pulling all that energy sprung that way, and when I push, I want to feel like I'm pushing all that shit that way. So that's what it will feel like. It'll feel, it's hard to explain. You think there's something symmetrical, that it should feel the same both ways, but it's sort of, so I suppose it will. Anyway, there you go. See more, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Hardest rubbish rig, gotta fuck around.